going to be looking at multiplying polynomials, but before we can look at polynomials, we need to look at a few things that happen with the exponents. So the first thing we're looking at is when we have the same base, what happens when we're multiplying? What do we do with those exponents? Okay? So if we have the same base, you're going to add your exponents. So if I have x to the 9th times x to the 6th times x squared, that means that I have 9 x's, I have 6 x's, and I have 2 x's that are all being multiplied together. So 9 plus 6 plus 2. Let's see, 9 plus 6 is 15, plus 2 more is 17, so we're going to end up with x to the 17th power. The next one, when we have a exponent that's being raised from a power to another power, we are going to multiply our exponents. So in other words, I have x squared, but I have 5 groups of x squared. Okay, so I'm going to have x squared, and then another x squared, and then another x squared, and I have that 5 times. So x squared times x squared times x squared times x squared. What is that, 4, 5? Right? So I have 2 x's, and then 2 more x's, and 2 more x's, and I have that 5 times. Realistically, what we're doing is just multiplying. So 5 times 2 is 10. So we're going to have 10 x values, or 10, x to the 10th power. Okay, anytime we have something being raised to a power and it's like a product of things, we can extend this and we can take the power of each of those things. Okay, so to find the power of a product, you distribute the exponent. Okay, so this is going to be the same as 2 cubed times x squared cubed times y to the 5th cubed. And then we would just simplify that. So 2 cubed is 8. X squared cubed, we go back to the last one we just did, we're going to multiply. So we have 3 groups of 2, so we have a total of 2 times 3 is 6 x's. And then y's, we have y to the 5th raised to the 3rd power. 3 times 5 is 15. Okay? And then that would be the final result of that. Another thing that we need to look at before we can start multiplying our polynomials is the imaginary numbers. Okay. We talked in the last video about how I is the result of the square root of a negative number. Okay, so I is the same as the square root of -1. So then if we look at I squared, we're just going from what we had and we're building on. So that would be I squared is equal to square root of -1 squared. But the square and the square root cancel, so I squared is actually just -1. Okay. If we had I cubed, well, I cubed is the same as I times I squared. So I is the square root of -1, and I squared is -1. So if we multiply those, we get negative square root of 1. I'm sorry, -1. This one was -1, and this is the square root of -1. And then I to the 4th, we'll make that I squared times I squared. I squared is -1, and I squared again is -1. So -1 times -1 is a positive 1. Those are the 4 main multiplication facts that we need to know about complex numbers. So again, we have that I is equal to -1. I squared, I is equal to the square root of -1. I squared is equal to -1. This one is I cubed is equal to negative square root of -1. And I to the 4th is equal to a positive 1. So now let's go ahead and get started with some multiplication. So the steps that we're going to take are here. We're going to make sure that our polynomials are in standard form. We're going to use the box method to multiply out our polynomials, look for any like terms that needed to be put together, and then write out our final result in standard form. So let's try this. I have x plus 5 times x squared minus 2x plus 1. Both of those are already in standard form, so we're going to go ahead and use our box method. Because we have a binomial times a trinomial, we have a 2 by 3 box, so we're counting out the number of terms in each polynomial. The first one is a binomial, x plus 5, so we're going to put that on the side that has 2, so we're going to have x and then a positive 5. Our second one is a trinomial. That's going to go on the side of the box that has 3. It's going to be an x squared minus 2x is going to be a negative 2x plus 1 is just a positive 1. And then we're going to take those values and multiply them into the boxes, just like a multiplication chart. So we get x times x squared. So going back to what we just did a little bit ago, we're going to add the exponents. X has an exponent of 1. So x times x squared would just be x cubed. We add the exponents. If I have x times negative 2x, well, in front of my x, the coefficient is a 1. So I get a 1 times negative 2, which is negative 2, and x times x, which is x squared. There are 2 x's there. Okay, and then x times 1 is going to just be x. Okay, next box we have 5 times x squared. That's going to be 5x squared. 5 times negative 2x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10, so we get negative 10x. And then 5 times 1 is just 5. Okay, and then we're going to go back and we're going to look. Do we have any like terms? So like terms would be variables that have that same exponent. So we have 2x squareds here. And we also have 2 x terms here. So those are the ones that are going to be put together. We're looking to have our answer in standard form. So our highest degree is x cubed, so we're going to start with that one. There's nothing that is a like term with x cubed, so that's our answer there. Our next monomial will be the x squareds. So we have a positive 5 and a negative 2. So 5 plus negative 2, or 5 minus 2, is 3. So we're going to have a plus 3x squared. Our next ones, we have a negative 10x and a positive x, so that's the same as negative 10 plus 1. So we get a negative 9x. And then our constant does not have any like terms, so plus 5. That would be the final result of multiplying those two polynomials.